we can move on to the next API and the next API, and maybe develop some generalizations along the way, which says that, you know, whenever we come into face these kind of problems, we're going to solve them this way, which, you know, much of that work has already been done in Kubernetes. So there's a lot of prior art to lean on there. And hopefully the number of cases where we think we're special and different enough from Kubernetes that we need to solve the same problem in a different way because we're a federation will be small. I'm not excluding the possibility of there being such cases, but I'm hoping it will be relatively small. That seems like a more likely to succeed procedure. All we need is someone to sign up to come up with that doc to propose and review, and then hopefully we can, in a series of stages, we can flesh out a full API. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I don't see any rationale in starting over. I mean, like I really think that a lot of the discussions that we've had about what these APIs look like, I can't point to a single thing that I've like ever had in my brain that makes me feel like the prior discussions that we've had are like somehow off base. So I think the doc that we already have is probably a useful point to start resuming discussions on, like, let's play the movie forward on what we've talked about previously. So does you guys previously, you guys being Red Hat, kind of put your hand up to do some of that work? Are you in a position to put forward some APIs for review and to form the basis of this discussion? I know Irfan's been doing some, so we can either, you know, kind of overlap and provide two proposals for the same type, or we can, you know, divvy the work up and say, you know, the Red Hat group focuses on type A, B, and C, and the Huawei group focuses on D and F. Yeah, I think so. The exercise that we're going through has been trying to just play the movie forward on what we've already discussed in the context of this group. And what I think might be fruitful is maybe Irfan and some folks from Red Hat and anybody else that's interested. Maybe we can sync up before the next meeting. I suspect that we probably have a lot of the same things in mind. And I don't think that there's been a sizable amount of work in any case that would be duplicated. How does that sound? Irfan, are you interested in doing that?
Yep, I'm perfectly in for it. Maybe early next week we can sync around same time, or whatever time is okay for you guys. Okay. Even it's not very late for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so maybe offline we can find a time to chat and enter the next Federation Working Group meeting with whatever thinking we've done so far kind of reconciled. Does that sound good?
Yep, sounds so good to me.
All right, so I'll take the action item to start a thread about this in, I guess, the multi-cluster SIG, and we can find a time to meet. It's Monday and Tuesday are very heavily scheduled for me, but I can try to move stuff around.
Okay. That'll be very helpful, Paul. Thanks. Okay, so yeah, I did not have anything else apart from this on the agenda.
Yeah, so one other point I just wanted to bring is like, okay, this Federation Working Group right now is the priority about federating clusters across homogeneous kind of clusters, like based on GC or just based on AWS, or also on something like a hybrid kind of a cluster. Is there any particular interest of to federate clusters across cloud providers? I just want to scan, like, okay, is there any scenarios which depends on such hybrid cluster need to be priority or not?
I've certainly had a lot of requests from customers for specifically hybrid cloud. It's kind of like a hot topic. A lot of big companies have for a variety of reasons, deployments across multiple cloud providers. On-prem and public being the most prevalent, but also multiple public clouds is the other one. And so, at the end of the day, somebody's got to do that work, and there are challenges that are associated with hybrid cloud that don't necessarily exist to the same extent for what we might call homogeneous cloud, maybe. So yeah, I've heard a lot of requirements for hybrid cloud.
Yeah, sure. And basically why I asked this is is there any challenge to something like a federated service discovery model? Currently we do that based on DNS, right? So is there any shortest plan or something to implement something else, or are we going forward with the federated service discovery as is?
I'm guessing you didn't read the meeting yesterday?
Yeah, sorry for that. I think I missed.
No problem. Just clarifying. I think that there's work in progress on the Istio side to do multi-cloud service discovery. And I think that sort of model is probably a good alternative for people who need those capabilities. Like the challenge with, I don't know, there's different use cases. I think we're probably going to need to have different solutions for different use cases. And the current solution works for some use cases. The Istio solution will work for others. And I think the goal will be making sure that we're not blocking anyone's effort to enable a different kind of service discovery that meets their specific requirements.
Can I just say a quick word on hybrid cloud? That's something that I've had a number of customer requests and interest of that too. I think that to plus one what Quentin said, there are a lot of extra additions to the problem space in hybrid cloud, and so it seems to me that probably as we chart future directions, that necessary, or at least one of the ingredients to figuring out hybrid cloud is figuring out homogeneous cloud or homogeneous multi-cluster. So I guess what I mean is probably watch the space, and there will be maybe some time where hybrid cloud is not the predominant focus. But I think that we should be mindful as we talk through more basic scenarios that we're not painting ourselves into a corner when it comes to hybrid. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The other brief comment is that the biggest part of the challenge with hybrid cloud is, I think, authentication and network inter-cloud networking. And I'm hoping that we can kind of dodge that bullet by saying that's actually not really the core focus of Federation. I think we can leverage things like Istio to do the inter-cloud networking. And we can hopefully leverage third-party like multi-cloud authentication systems. There's a whole industry out there in sort of both of these areas. And not focus our attention necessarily on those specific areas, which are the bulk of the hybrid cloud problem. Correct me if anybody disagrees with that.
What was the other one besides auth, which, by the way, the phrase hybrid cloud auth, the idea just ties my brain in a knot. I think maybe
some kind of unified authorization. So having a unified user ID, which at the moment is non-trivial because you have an AWS user ID and you have a Google one and you have your LDAP one internally and unifying all that stuff. So that's the one problem, which if all your clusters are running on AWS, you just have one kind of token and everything's a lot simpler. And then the second one is the inter-cloud networking being the other big challenge. So
yeah.
as soon as if you're between multiple data centers even or zones in a single cloud provider, you have private networking and a bunch of things that are available to you, which suddenly are no longer available if those two zones are in different cloud providers. You're traversing the internet, and you've got VPN solutions and all sorts of things that don't necessarily apply in the former case. So those are the areas, from my experience, those are the two difficult to solve areas. But I also think that we don't necessarily need to solve them, because they actually have whole industries around both of those problems already, and we should, in the same way that we mentioned that we could use Istio, for example, for cross-cluster, secure, authenticated RPC type communication. I think that's the right approach, rather than to try and invent our own thing instead of using Istio. And I think the same applies to authentication. If and where there are third-party tools, we might have some basic, a bit like our multi-cluster services at the moment use DNS, and that's sort of okay for a small subset of use cases. And if you want something more sophisticated, I think we should support things like Istio to provide the more sophisticated, secure, perhaps higher performance alternatives.
Yeah, I think those are probably the two big rocks in the field. There's also just an extra element to the auth one. Once you start talking about hybrid cloud and integrating these different identity providers from clouds, there's also a potential entanglement with whatever chosen organizational identity management solution exists, right? There's a lot of orgs that already have their own identity management that potentially you have the extra complication of integrating all of those different things together in the soup with an org's identity management solution. Yeah. Another one that comes to mind, which I don't think is something that we will be concerned about at all, but I feel compelled to mention it because it comes up often in another area of my professional life, which is when I have a hybrid cloud solution, there are service offerings from different clouds that are in similar spaces, but there's not they have their own differentiators, and a lot of users and folks in the community have asked me, in the context of service catalog, are there things like cross-cloud APIs that make building services on clouds, building microservices that depend on other cloud services easier? I'll just call that out as a thing. I don't think it's relevant to us, but I'm doing that nerd thing where I just have to share information.
Okay. Yep. So, yeah, I don't think there is any other point that we are going to discuss in today's meeting. We are out of time also. Yep. So, see you guys next time. And Paul and probably Maru, I'll probably sync up with you early next week.
Okay, that sounds good. Irfan, I'll send a message to the list and make sure that I CC you so that you get it even if you filter the list email.
Okay, sure.
Sound good?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, thanks. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank
Bye,
you all. See you next time. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.